Chrystia Freeland closes off the year quitting Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet with a kind of scorched earth approach on her way out, blaming crucial fiscal disagreements. She argues the Prime Minister is on the irresponsible side of responding to Donald Trump's tariff threat. Now, Justin Trudeau has not addressed Canadians directly since, but tomorrow will shuffle his cabinet in what sources are telling CTV News will be a substantial changing of the guard. Will that change include him? The front bench is here to talk about that. Former New Brunswick Liberal Premier Brian Gallant is with us. He's the CEO of Space Canada now. Former Conservative Deputy Leader Lisa Raitt is here. She's the Vice Chair and Managing Director of Global Investment Banking at CIBC. CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair is with us, as is the Toronto Star's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Rob Benzie. Hi, everybody. Very nice to see you. Benzie, I'm going to start with you. I was told pretty specifically that just because there's a shuffle tomorrow doesn't mean the Prime Minister has decided. The fact that he hasn't in the past 3 days conveyed to Canadians directly that he is sticking around, what does that indicate to you?
I mean, it indicates, Vassy, that his period of reflection continues because, I mean, the finance minister, his deputy prime minister resigns on Monday, the same day as the fall economic statement that she was supposed to table, and then he's in absolute disarray all week. After we learned later he had tried to fire her, or he had fired her, announced that she was going to be fired on Friday, the previous Friday. So it is shambolic. It's like I was saying to you on the radio today, Vassy. They aspire to the West Wing, but it's much more like Veep. So it hasn't been a great week for them. And I think tomorrow's shuffle, and we're hearing already some of the leaks about the shuffle. David McGuinty from Ottawa South will be the public safety minister. Nate Erskine-Smith from Beaches East York will be the housing minister. I'm not sure those changes are going to be enough to get Canadians to say, well, wait a minute, sounds like the government's got their act together, and I think we're going to vote for them now.
Yeah, in your view, based on what you've seen so far, Lisa, is this shuffle designed to impart a sense of that? Like, here's the reset that we've been promising for a while, or is it just like a steadying of the ship against the background of complete chaos?
Well, the ship cannot be steadied. It is the Titanic. It is going down. And, you know, we love the phrase that they're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but it's more than that. I mean, what we'll get a view of tomorrow is what really is mattering to Justin Trudeau right now. Are they going to try to put some cabinet ministers in seats that they think they can save, or are they going to be paying people off in terms of putting the most strong forces that could possibly lead a rebellion in the caucus and putting them in cabinet to make sure that they're happy there? It'll be interesting to see which way this goes. I don't think this comes down to competence anymore, to be quite frank. They have 69 days left in the House of Commons if they go through to June. And as a result, there's very little work that's going to actually get done and very little ministering for the ministers to do. So it's window dressing at its very best, but you get to be an honorable for life, and it's pretty sweet.
I should be referring to you that more frequently. Yeah,
Tom and I know.
Tom, the prospect, right? There's a bunch of honorables. Everyone but Benzie and I we're just dishonorable at this point. There's some speculation, Tom, as Lisa mentioned, the days in the House of Commons, right? That even that isn't the case. That there's prorogation announced tomorrow at the same time. That we might get an answer one way or the other on the Prime Minister's leadership. What do you think the chances of that are, and what would your advice to them be right now about whether to do that or not?
The two memorable prorogations were Stephen Harper's. They were both around 2 months, one just a titch less and one a bit more. And I don't see Trudeau wanting to waste his time. He doesn't have to declare that hand until the third week of January. And then if he were to get 2 months then, it might give the party enough time to organize a leadership and make it a little bit less chaotic than what we've seen so far. The other thing that we're getting as a signal, and I've been getting the same one in Montreal, is that there will be new faces going to cabinet, and it's being done thoughtfully, trying to bring in people who can shore up some weak elements. So, for example, I've been hearing the name Rachel Ben-Dayan, very solid lawyer, good backbencher. She took over my Outremont riding after I left politics. She's been elected, therefore, in that by-election and 2 more times. She is one of the few members of the Jewish community in caucus. She's well respected. And since October 7th, the Trudeau-Joly team has been under a lot of criticism from that community.
Yeah.
They're expecting, actually, the Liberals are expecting to lose Anthony Housefather's riding to the Conservatives on the island of Montreal. So she would be a way of sending a positive signal. But once you start doing that, I'll put it another way. Vassy, I've never met a backbencher who didn't think they were cabinet material. If you don't go into that job unless you think you can contribute at that level. So Trudeau has been saying, okay, in addition to your other jobs, you're going to be the defense minister. Oh, you're going to be the transport minister, as if the second biggest country in the world didn't need a transport minister. But he's just been holding back because he knew that it would be unmanageable if he started bringing new people in. The very fact that it appears he's about to do that signals to me, and yeah, maybe, you know, we're interpreting too much, but it signals to me that he's given up on that fight. He knows that he's lost his caucus. He's got several dozen who are now openly against him. And he's just sort of going, okay, I'm going to do the best I can with what I've got. And there will be a lot of dissatisfied people because I think that that's going to be part of the result.
So Tom leads me, Brian, to the elephant in the room, which is, will the Prime Minister address the question of his leadership tomorrow? And what are the consequences if he doesn't at this point? Like, we've now gone a full 5 days, basically, with speculation at a level 10 that because of what Chrystia Freeland did and said, he is going to step aside with, as Tom points out, MP after MP after MP coming forward publicly to say he's got to do it. Like, does he have to say something about it tomorrow? And as a follow-up, which I promised our text chat I would ask, are you going to be running for Liberal leader?
No, thank you. I will leave that to, I'll leave that to all the others that are thinking about running, and many of them I think have been preparing for a while. On your specific question, he'll have to address it, of course. I mean, the media will ask him if indeed he does make himself available during the shuffle. So he's absolutely going to have to address it. There's no question. Now, to be fair to him, I'm sure he's thinking, I did address it, right? I went to those two events that were Liberal events, of course, and I sort of spoke about it and sort of alluded to the events of this week. So in his mind, he at least has talked about it somewhat. But of course, from a journalist perspective, and frankly, from sort of the average Canadian, I don't think they feel that it's really been addressed. And I think it's going to be definitely something he's going to have to really explain, and that will be overshadowing whatever moves he makes. Very quickly as well, I just want to add maybe on some of the other things you chatted on. It's going to be a substantial shuffle. I mean, there's no choice. I mean, how many departments don't have a permanent minister? And of course, given everything, yet another reason. Yeah, another reason has to be substantial. And the only thing, other thing I'll add is Tom says that he's never met a backbencher that doesn't think that they should be minister. I don't know which ones you're speaking to. When I spoke to my caucus, I think they all had the impression they should be premier, and I would assume I would assume there's a bit of that going on in Ottawa as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much going on, and all of us know it behind the scenes, people sort of jockeying to figure out if they will run to replace him, if he ultimately does make that decision. Rob, do you think he's going to address it tomorrow? Because I want to say, just like we don't even know for sure. No one is confirming he will even talk to reporters there tomorrow.
Yeah. I just think it would be really weird, Vassy, if he announces this cabinet shuffle and then says, oh, and by the way, I'm resigning. So I don't think he'll do that tomorrow. Whether he'll address the shambolic nature of his government right now, I guess what his team would say, I guess, is, well, we're tackling it by naming these people to cabinet. These are serious folks. They're and it's new blood, and it's going to probably save some seats. David McGuinty's seat in Ottawa South. He's the younger brother of former Premier Dalton McGuinty. It was one of only 11 in Ontario that they won in 2011 when the Liberals were wiped out under Michael Ignatieff. So these are safe seats. The fact that they would elevate a veteran like that into cabinet tells me they may be worried about these core seats, Vassy, and that's really wild. And in Erskine Smith's case, he's a self-styled maverick. He had said he wasn't going to run again, and now he's going to stick around. So that's interesting too. So I guess it saved the furniture time, but the house is on fire, right? So I don't know, how much furniture can you save?
Do you have a gut feeling, Lisa, about whether the Prime Minister ultimately goes or stays? And if we find out anytime soon?
So I think the fact that he's putting a cabinet in means that he's staying, because if you were to announce that, even if he says, I'm going to stick around and be the prime minister until there's a leadership race, your cabinet's going to start resigning because they have to go and have a leadership type of race. And as a result, he would just be constantly trying to fill the cabinet. I think he's going to try to give it a go to see how long he can go. But I'll tell you, I know that the MPs are gone home. They are going to get an earful in their community. If they think that they're going to be safe from their kids, from their spouses, from their parents, from anybody that they may go to a worship service, forget about it. They're going to hear, this has been such an embarrassing week in Canadian and world politics that everyone knows what happens and how it happens. And I would say, most of Canadians are done with Mr. Trudeau, and they're going to hear it. And the question will be in their minds, but are you done with me?
Tom, you've been one of the ones for a while who's thought that he might take a walk in the snow, right? I've heard you say it on a number of occasions. Have you changed your mind at all?
No, not a bit. And I would add that he probably regrets not having taken his walk in the snow last February 29th, the 40th anniversary of his dad's poetic walk in the snow, because it's been all downhill for him ever since. And I know that somewhere inside him, he knows that there's a best before date on every politician. And, we don't have the American 8-year rule, but boy, we got something close to it in Canadians' hearts. They just say it's time for change. Look, St. Paul's riding in Toronto, safe Liberal seat. They got thumped. LaSalle, Aymard, Verdun, Montreal, safe Liberal seat. They got thumped. This week in British Columbia, we talk about bellwether ridings. British Columbia is a bellwether province. It's got a good mix of Conservatives, Liberals, and NDP. You get a good sense of of what's happening in the land. A Liberal seat comes up in a by-election. The Conservatives get 66% of the vote in a multi-party race. The Liberals are down to 16, and the NDP down to 12, almost in single digits. That is called the writing on the wall. And I don't think that even with all of his hubris and self-confidence and energy, Trudeau can convince himself otherwise. Does he want to be the person who leads that charge of the Light Brigade? Does he really want to see his troops decimated, or does he want to give them a fighting chance to bring in a fresh face who can maybe, save the furniture from the burning house? Because I don't think he can.
I don't think he thinks, Brian, that a fresh face can do that. My impression is that he thinks he is the only person that can save the furniture. So last 30 seconds to you. Do you think he goes or stays?
Well, if that's what he thinks in your preamble, I think he's wrong. I think it's an ill-informed way to sort of conclude that you should stay on. There are other very competent people that would be willing to run for the leadership, and again, I'm not one of them. So
Brian.
Not
a
trying
lot
to
of
set
denial,
that up or
Brian.
anything, to be clear. So I think it's wrong for him to think that, and I think it's a problem for the government, and it has been for months now, and I think indeed it's culminating in this the events of this week. And should he go, I personally think it would be best for him, his legacy, best for his team if he decided to resign. But I want to say in the exact same breath that, it is his decision. He won a confidence vote not too long ago. He is the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. But as Lisa said, at one point it just might become untenable, even if there's not an official mechanism. But if he's continuously replacing his cabinet, that might indeed be the last sign that he needs.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. The front bench is sticking around. When we return,